Welcome to another episode of the Lords of Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Clint Culberson. I am here with Richie Jones. Richie, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, LOC community? Good to see you again.
We have a special guest today, our man, Josh Lawrence out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Josh, how's it going, buddy?
Going well, guys. How are y'all?
Josh, we met you at Contact in the Desert last week, and it was one of those chance meetings that you get where it wasn't really chance, because you really get this feeling sometimes that it's like meant to be when you sometimes meet people. And when we met you, we got lost into hours and hours of conversation, and it was kind of one of those meetings that just felt like, hey man, finally good to see you again. It's been a while. And now we have you right now on this video because I really would like to introduce you to the world, really, because you're a brilliant guy and you have incredible experience, and we've all kind of decided that we'd like to start collaborating together because we really have shared vision in many ways, and we also bring a lot of different aspects to the table, and that's why you're here, man. So I'm just really glad that our destinies finally crossed paths, I suppose. So,
indeed, right back at you.
So you live out in Albuquerque, right?
I do.
And you have a unique history because you have a history, and you've been involved in a lot of activism out there. You had mentioned that you had been with Occupy Wall Street. You were protesting outside of the Bush Ranch in Texas, correct? You've had a lot of fascinating experience. You've been on, you've worked in film for a long time, and also you've been a Bigfoot hunter. You've been you've been on treasure hunting digs out there and random places throughout the Southwest. And you're connected to all sorts of fascinating people, and it's kind of led you to have quite a rich journey so far, and you have such an amazing perspective on each of those kind of categories that each of those experiences has led to you to have such an interesting viewpoint on how you see the world. And I don't know. I wanted to bring you on here to kind of give people an introduction to who you are and kind of hear some of those perspectives, because it is quite a rich history you got in such a short amount of time you've been here on the planet.
I think it sums it up pretty well, actually, Clint.
Yeah,
we're talking with you guys.
Oh yeah, exactly. So tell us. I guess let's start off with some of your. Let's start off with some of more of your experience in ancient civilizations. That's the one I'd love to really start off with and give people kind of a rundown over what has been like your experience with. You have some really great contacts who have dedicated their lives to it, and what has that been like for you, and what has been your perspective, and what's really out there as opposed to just but what we're being told is out there.
Well, I'll start off by saying that since I was a little kid, my grandparents both retired from Sandia Labs, which is a big military installation here in New Mexico. And my grandmother used to do the artwork on missiles, and grandfather helped invent all kinds of crazy things. But my grandfather pumped into me since I was a kid the hollow earth theories and all the UFOs and Bigfoot and just kind of everything. I've been on the internet since the early 90s, which, I started digging really young. And of course, a lot of things that you could find back then, you can't even find online anymore. But when I came back here in 2010, I actually, a friend of mine always talked about another guy named Rob Kryder that I need to meet. And so I finally met him, and he has an exploration company called Kryder Exploration. And when I jumped on with those guys, I was going to be filming the documentary, documenting everything that they were going to be doing in Egypt, because they found a whole lot of interesting things in Egypt, ancient cities under the desert, stuff, 300 miles south of Cairo, all kinds of really neat things. And actually, we had Richard Hoagland come onto the scene. He was going to go with us to Egypt. And so anyways, Rob really just confirmed all the feelings that I had since I was a kid and through all my experiences about ancient civilization and Bigfoot and ancient technology and all kinds of crazy things. And that's kind of just led me on a whole nother path that is exactly where I want to be. Although it's a hard world to make a living in, and like writing books and pumping out stuff all the time and working on TV doing that stuff. And so
you had talked to me about, we went to Contact in the Desert, and one one of the topics is kind of the big digs that are going on around the world, the Göbekli Tepes, the Egyptian pyramids and all the ruins there. So those are usually some of the hot conversations going on. But one of the things that you had mentioned to me is that there is a lot more out there than what we're being told. I guess there's really only a certain amount of money to fund this stuff, but a lot of people actually know that there's other stuff out there that's it could be just as amazing as the stuff that we already know about. Could you kind of speak to that?
Sure. Some of the sites here in New Mexico, like the 7 cities of Cibola, the lost city of Cuscurza, which is the Hopi third step, were just some of the locations that Rob had found in this state. And I've been privileged enough to see documentation from the World Bank and CIA maps and all kinds of crazy things proving that, like 7 cities, there's 7 giant geometric chambers underground, each chamber the size of 3 to 4 football fields, and that each chamber's got, over 40 billion in gold, 40 billion in silver, 40 billion in copper, amazing things. Ancient spaceship, all kinds of crazy things. And, for example, one of their last jobs was to open up this, what the PhDs called a 35 million year old hill. And the PhD said there's nothing under there. Well, there was a whole beehive of mining systems, ancient Spanish tools that are made of metals that we don't even know how they made them. And they ended up pulling 135 tons of gold bars out of there and had them backfill it all in. So it's still just sitting there. And the thing is that there's sites like this in probably every state on every continent that agencies are very well aware of. And, New Mexico, for one, is one of the poorest states in the nation. Number 1 in child hunger, number 2 in adult hunger, 50th to 49th in education.
Wow. And
the list goes on. Well, just that one example, if you were to pull 135 gold bars, 135 tons of gold bars out of the ground, that would just totally screw up our economic system. And so they're sitting on this stuff all over the planet. Amazing things that change our history completely, that flush theories down the toilet. And it'd be nice if we could actually have a platform to show the world these things. And now I know a lot of great people doing a lot of great things, but there's a large portion of the focus that are on certain points on the planet. And in reality, some of the coolest things on the planet, nobody's looking at.
So why is that? Is it just a matter of not enough funding, or they're kept hidden on purpose?
We are surrounded by this circle of lies that goes back so far, and really might not go back that far, but it only takes a few generations for people to forget. Our publishing companies publish new books every year. And when we were kids, we had the same history book that our parents might have used. Their name might have even been in the front of the book. But nowadays, information is just so quickly demolished. Definitions of words can be changed. that we've forgotten our history,
Right.
and it's been indoctrinated into us what's real, what reality is, when in reality we're really living in a big circle of false reality.
Yeah. Amen. You know, it seems like there's a story that of especially of our history that the whoever you want to call it. I'm trying to come up with the word because I hate using the powers that be, but whatever that be, that's been wanting to keep that story from us. And I'm curious, what do you think that we would find if we really understood our archaeological history, our true history of our ancestors? I mean, what would we find that would change this reality here in the present?
Well, I think that we would realize that there's nothing new under the sun. We've done all of this before. So we go from tribe to like totally advanced civilization to global wars to cataclysmic events that put man back underground and off planet, however that works. And over time, man comes back out of the ground and back to planet, and we start off in tribes, and we do it all over again.
Right.
Yeah, everything's a big cycle. So, I mean, I was watching a video last night on Nibiru, and they were talking about how it's going through the Oort cloud right now, supposedly, and how that's going to throw meteors towards the Earth. That's a 3,600-year cycle, which lines up perfectly with our current history, right around 3,500 years. But that's not our history. You know, it goes back so much farther. I mean, the Bosnian pyramids are 10,000 years old with concrete that's 3 times stronger than what we have now. That alone totally throws everything out the window. So, rabbit hole goes deep here.
Yeah, it opens up a whole can of worms at every angle. At every angle out there, whether you're talking economic, science, history, every angle, it throws it all out of loop. And these would be, you know, the Crown, the Vatican, you know, in our time, in our history of this country, we've never once fought a just war. Every war is funded by the same people, both sides, and it's always happened that way. So what's real and what's not? Well, I don't know, but there is factual evidence out there. There are tangible things that we can hold in our hand that show us that whatever we've been told is not accurate.
So you have this experience getting out there, being in the streets. In a sense, you participated in protests that basically are kind of saying, you know, hey, we don't agree with what's going on, and we want to know more. Why are you holding it back from us, basically, you know? But what has been your experience in so doing? I mean, does it work? And if it doesn't, how do we get this disclosure, as we were talking about at the Contact in the Desert, this word disclosure of you know, basically getting the real knowledge of what our governments of the world know, and even the black governments know, that they're withholding from us. Does protesting work?
Well, for me, protesting, just like Contact in the Desert, just brings people together. It's been a great introduction to meeting new people that are on the same wavelength and the same interests. And you know, now I've got friends forever through these events. But I felt like, you know, in 2005, whenever we were protesting Bush and the war and 9/11 and all that jazz, when I was traveling across the country, what I saw at the end was, you know, people kind of taking their PTO, their vacation days, going to DC or wherever and shouting and screaming and waving signs, and then they go right back to their daily agenda. And, you know, it hasn't made a change, because so long as the gears of the elite are rolling, it doesn't matter what we do. We don't scare them because their machine is still moving. It still works. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to like stop that, then we've got to start focusing on the things that are tangible And politics is nothing but a movie, a continuous reality TV show. And anybody that we're seeing, I mean, there was like 400 and something candidates for president, but we still only see a handful. You know, and even though Bernie and Trump are probably the most popular on this continent, maybe in the world, you know, Hillary's still pushing the lead. So to me, it hasn't worked the way that we wanted it to work. And what would work would be us collaborating indoors, coming up with some great ideas that don't even involve government. We don't need government's help to build farms, to build free energy, to disclose information. Government is probably something that we just shouldn't even pay attention to anymore. And it's history repeats itself. It's never changed. It's always been the same.
It does make you wonder if it is some a giant distraction in a way. I mean, not to say that the government doesn't have any sway over or have any effect on the daily lives of each of us right here, because I think it does. But at the same time, how much of an effect does it have? And does the amount of attention that I give it, is that in a direct correlation with the amount of the effects that it has on my life? And if even still, does the attention that I give it make any difference, really? I mean, I think we're finding, and I mean, I hate to say this to anyone listening, but we're finding that even the idea of voting is probably a big Ponzi scheme like the rest of it. I mean, I think it's become quite apparent that what's happening, especially in the Democratic primary in the United States, is there is some stinky fish all over the damn place. I mean, it just reeks with corruption. I mean, when you have that millions of ballots that aren't even counted, they're basically, if you're an independent, they're just not even counting you. Of which, of course, Bernie is an independent, so of course that's his stronghold in a sense. And they just don't even care. I mean, even the allegations against it just they're unheard by mainstream media. So what do you think then? This is for you, Josh. What do you think beyond that? How do we go forward? I mean, if there's groups of people out there that are really wanting to change it, then where do we go from here? We come together, and what do we do?
Well, there's a lot of great ideas out there, and even whether it's socialism, capitalism, whatever ism it may be, they're always a great idea. Mm-hmm. But no great idea works when you have corruption. So full transparency is key. And we can vote in a school or in a small setting, a village, a town, and you might actually have something real. I'm sure there's always going to be some sway and some dark side corruption, but when it's as big as it is, it's just not hard to create this lie. What can we do? Well, we can open up our eyes and start learning, try to learn what all the great ideas there are. Mm-hmm. What is real? There's absolutely no reason for any of us to be spending $50 to $500 a month on our electric bill or our gas bill or any of these things. If everybody called tomorrow T-Mobile and said, "Hey, we're not paying more than $5," and if that's not going to change, we're just going to shut our phone off. They'd have no choice but to do that, but we don't do that. We kind of just go with the flow of the system because that's what we have to do to survive. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of great initiatives out there. You have the Venus Project, you have Wolfing, you have so many amazing things out there. And those groups of people and all those that support them need to start collaborating, need to start coming together. And how can we take this good idea, and this good idea, and make it all one entity?
Absolutely.
The elite operate on a system that we have access to, but it's been conditioned out of us. We don't know how to use it. And so we've got to play their game and do it ourselves instead of letting them. Everybody's fighting like, We don't want corporations to be labeled people. Well, if you really did your research, you'd realize that people are corporations, and we are the employees of those corporations. So we've got to just start paying attention and start uniting all of our great ideas and figure something out. That's what I'm saying. We got to go indoors. If everybody goes indoors and starts planning, and we're not marching the streets and screaming and watching the news, then they'll be scared. But at the moment, we're doing the same thing as we've always done. My parents, my elders all said, if you want to beat the system, join it. Well, I see that, but maybe we don't need to join it. We just don't need them. Let's just go figure out all this shit on our own.
Yeah, and we per our conversation that we had in Joshua Tree, we had talked about, and you had just recently brought it up, the idea of transparency. That if imagine even people who are going to start creating some sort of communal living, whatever you want to call that, people that are going to come together, create communities on their own, that transparency has to be like an integral part. I mean, maybe even the foundation of it, and maybe even overkill with transparency, just considering the pendulum that we're coming from, of how the corruption that's happened, that so many people need to regain their trust, even in just humanity in general. I mean, I think a lot of people just believe that even if groups come together, that, we'll just end up doing the same thing. Someone will try to take over, someone will try to, it'll be the same dichotomy that we're living in right now. And I think I actually have a lot more faith in humanity than that. I actually believe that we can come together, and corruption doesn't have to weed itself in, that man is not inherently evil like a lot of religious people believe. I don't really believe that. And I think that part of that, it could be that idea of transparency, to really monitor everything. I mean, or just be open with everything. There is no such thing as, national security, so we can't talk to you. We can't tell you people this, or it's for your own good that we don't tell you. That is that's the dangerous rhetoric, if you ask me. And I definitely believe that we can overcome our history. Like, I get what the history says. The probabilities are that that would happen again, but I think that we can actually, all chips in on humanity has a chance here if we do it right.
Absolutely. And I hear all the time that human nature always resolves to greed and war and somebody wanting everything or whatever it may be. But we are all a product of the environment that was created for us. And once you start stepping out of your environment that you grew up in, is when you really start seeing the differences in man. I hear all the time as well from people that do travel the world, like, man, until you go overseas and you are in these different areas, you don't realize what we're capable of doing. And we definitely have that ability to, if we had transparency, full transparency, we would all think a little different. We would all make different choices. We wouldn't hate the things necessarily that we hate, or love the things that we love, because there's just not that transparency there. So how do we know? We live on so many false foundations of information, theories, theory of gravity, theory of evolution, theory of whatever. There are all these theories. And I hear all the time conversations where I'm constantly hearing clashing theories. I mean, I heard it with Graham Hancock out at Contact, which was kind of disappointing. I hear this great information, but then it's backed up by the theory of evolution or something to that effect. And transparency is key, period, no matter what we do.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, are we going to agree on everything? I'm not even sure that that's like the premise, is to, we all must come to one agreement of what human history has been, for example. I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, there's always going to be that universal mystery, and that's kind of makes life fun, if you ask me. Would you really want to know it all if you could? I don't know. Wouldn't it be boring at that point?
No.
You would want to know it all?
I would. That's my life mission. I'm curious.
Richie's a know-it-all. Is that what you're trying to say?
I would love to be a know-it-all, but that's something I strive for is knowledge. So for me, I don't think it would be boring.
Yeah, but I mean, for anyone who's experienced the psychedelic realms, I mean, there's always this ever-present knowing that, guess what? It's infinite. It's a fractal universe what we live in, and it goes infinitely each way. I mean, there's not even enough time in this mortal existence to even comprehend it all. It's just that infinite. So and that's okay. Like at some point you have to just let go and just, it's okay. Okay, I'm not going to know literally everything there is to know, but as a collective, maybe we can. Maybe as a collective, each of us bringing our expertises together. I mean, who knows what kind of mind sharing that we will be capable of in the future. I'm not sure, but I have a funny feeling that as people come together, like you were talking about, Josh, and there's that transparency and that we can start trusting each other more, that maybe there will be this space that we can share where it's almost like each other's knowledge can be, I mean, I don't know, in some ways instantly accessed, instantly downloaded. I mean, I don't know. I've dabbled in this in my own life, and even the friends that I have now, it kind of almost seems like that. You know, it's like we can have these, this sharing going on, but the potential for humanity in the future to me is a fascinating one, and I'm just kind of eager to see what it is. Because I'll be honest with you, this particular storyline that we're playing out over and over, the slaveholders and the slaves kind of thing, I'm bored of it, man. I'm tired of it. I'm just like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to change it. And I know that each of you two are the same way, and you feel, that's why we're even here. And that's why, Josh, we've talked about co-collaborating together. You've mentioned that you really saw like a real passion with Richie and I, and we saw it in you, and which is why we're really looking forward to doing projects together. And that's why I wanted to make this video kind of introducing you and showing who you are and what you're about. And Josh Lawrence, everyone.
Hey.
So I'm really looking forward to our future projects together and the ideas that we'll be sharing. And I think there's a uniting of the tribes going on all around the world, and small tribe. Maybe they're just small tribes, but small tribes got to meet up with the big tribe and with other small tribes to create bigger tribes to have some sort of unification going on, because people can be trusted, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. If I didn't have hope in man, I'd be totally ready to see what's next, after in this planet. And, I'm tired of the red tape that we always come across when we're trying to expand our knowledge. Because there's always a wall somewhere, it's just, I want to see what all there is. I want to taste it. I don't want to be cut off at any point. And yes, you guys, the drive that you've done an amazing job already, and just starting for the most part, have done an amazing job, and always open-minded, great questions. I love it, and I totally would love to work with you guys and try to just build our network list big enough that we can try and pull something together as a whole and build it, and let that be something that is mimicked all over the world. Not that I want that credibility or you guys do, but we want to be a part of it. We know our human potential is amazing, and we just don't really have the chance to see our full potential. And I mean, we do, we just are cut off at a lot of different areas. And I want to experience the full potential of man.
Me too.
With good people.
Amen. I couldn't agree more, because I find that even just in tiny groups, you see like such potential. I'm seeing it with right now with me and my fiance. We're just a man and a woman, what that's like, to just see the capabilities of two open-hearted people who are, self-honest enough to realize that we each have healing to do, but at the same time giving that space to each other, and then, co-collaborating together as a family. Now, Matt, take that, roll it forth. I mean, we've had this Facebook group called Lords of Consciousness, which has stemmed into this media group now, and we've seen it just on a microcosm. And next week we have our gathering, the second gathering of the Lords here in Arizona. And last year it was such an incredible event. Almost 30 people from all around the world showed up and hung out for a weekend in the mountains of Arizona. And honestly, it was pretty life-changing. And it's not to say that again, it's not to say that you got to come to this particular gathering, but people need to be doing this all over. We need to be coming together and go have a gathering out in the woods, or go meet up at someone's house for once a week to just have have drinks or and share ideas, even if that's all it is, and support each other, and be there for each other when you need it, and to help each other get through some of the how do I say this? Many of us are in this present moment, and we're starting to see the light on what's really happening. But man, we got a lot of bumps and bruises from the last several decades of, how do I say it, just bullshit, and living in this false paradigm and this inverted reality. And so, man, of course we're beat up. So let's help each other, mend our wounds, and then really start getting out there and getting to work and creating the new paradigm which we want to see. Not just bitching that, hey, you assholes at the top. We know that they're the assholes at the top, and really they're not going to leave until we just create the new paradigm ourselves. I mean, we can just do it.
Exactly. One thing I find very interesting is how your eyes see inverted. So just think, if you fix your eyesight, you can flip everything upside down. So it's time to do that. It's time to flip everything on its head, get done with all this nonsense, and come together. And not necessarily saying join our group, make your own. Hey, man, we need people to come together everywhere, not just here. So, I mean, just come together, fight for each other, have each other's backs, quit looking at each other as the problem. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Is we are not the problem. We are the solution.
Amen.
They pull the conquer and divide card. We don't have to play that card. We can play a whole nother card. Come together as one and figure shit out. So, let them play their own card game. We don't need it.
Nope.
Josh, let's end with this. Tell the people what kind of projects are you looking to work on in your future? Where is your energy headed towards?
My passion, my focus is with the exploration team. I'd love to see the hundreds of sites that my mentor sits on be able to be funded and opened up with full transparency, live streamed, so everybody can see what comes up out of the ground. I'm surrounded by so many amazing people doing so many amazing things. I just want to see it all somehow come together. I want to see all the cool free energy technology that I've witnessed, all the quantum tech and whatnot, to be something that everybody is aware of. And I just want to see everybody come together. I want to see, I've seen Bigfoot. I don't want that to be a question anymore. Bigfoot is real. The DNA test, everything's been done. I just want to see it all come together.
He said it, ladies and gentlemen. Bigfoot is real. He dropped it.
And Clint is scared to go in the woods by himself.
And now I'm scared to go camping. God damn it. You asshole. You ruined it. Well, I'm just going to make sure I'm camping with my peeps. So,
I got your back, bro.
Okay. Well, next time I want to go camping with you. So you can talk to them. The Bigfoot Whisperer right here. Well, Josh, man, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. We're really looking forward to future projects together, and I hope people really dive into, some of the things that you're putting out there already, and even that you're plan on putting out with us through this medium and through whatever medium out there. It doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, alternative media is a big family. Alternative media needs to work together. This is not This is not a competition model like the old model. This is, especially when you consider the mainstream media and how absolutely destructive it has been towards our society, and it's probably the most potent tool of the elites that are controlling this world and on some level. And the idea of part of the motivation for this site, lordsofconsciousness.com, is to counterbalance that and to have and there's plenty of other people doing the same thing. I mean, we are not reinventing the wheel at all. We're just sharing our take. But when you consider the percentage of people that are still tuning into mainstream media, there needs to be more and more and more options for people out there to get content that is showing a different story, an alternative, an alternative view on what's going on out there. And man, looking forward to this, and I hope people really are looking forward to seeing more stuff that you're going to be working on, because you are a brilliant dude, man.
Thank you. I'll take your word for it.
Hey, Josh, just let Rich know that I went out to the woods last weekend and I still can't come up with Wi-Fi out of duct tape and a razor blade. So,
Will do.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Peace.
gang.
Word to your mother.